Throughout the duration of the Human Covenant War, the UNSC Marine Corps was a pivotal institution within the UNSC military. Their troops played a critical role in nearly every battle, and made up the majority of UNSC ground forces during the war. So today we'll take a brief look at the history of the UNSC Marine Corps and the equipment utilized by UNSC Marines at the very end of the Human Covenant War. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So the UNSC Marines are a common sight during the Halo games. Most of our allies during many of the battles and campaign are UNSC Marines. And the UNSC Marine Corps has a long and storied history within the Halo universe. So I figured today we'll take a look at the history of the organization, and some of the equipment they were using at the very end of the war. Let's start with their history. At the time of the Halo games, the UNSC Marine Corps is hundreds of years old, being formed in the 2160s. Where it served the UN as their primary Marine Corps force, as one would expect, and played a crucial role in early colonization efforts, often serving as colonial security and protecting new colonies. As humanity expanded outward and colonized more and more systems, more and more small factions started to crop up. And as these small factions cropped up and some took issue with the UNSC Marine Corps became the frontline troops for dealing with insurrections and uprisings. In fact, before the outbreak of the Human Covenant War, the UNSC Marine Corps was pretty preoccupied dealing with insurrections on the fringe systems of human space. With the outbreak of the Human Covenant War, the adversaries that the UNSC Marine Corps was dealing with completely changed. It went from other human factions, which were predictable, understandable, and could easily be beaten, to a basically unstoppable alien force that was steamrolling human colonies. So UNSC Marines often found themselves defending worlds that were basically already doomed to an apocalypse. Many of their battles were last stands, where they were trying to delay the inevitable and prevent the Covenant from overrunning a world before the civilian population could be evacuated. As the Covenant pushed closer and closer to humanity's homeworld, the UNSC Marine Corps found itself fighting increasingly desperate battles. In many of the battles that humanity actually won during the war, the element that shifted the battles in humanity's favor weren't the Marines, but were instead members of the Spartan program, who were one of the few UNSC forces that could really go toe-to-toe with Covenant forces. Still, UNSC Marines played an important role as fire support, and they still had their fair share of victories. And we really get a good look at them during the last days of the Human Covenant War, with the Marines that we see in the original Halo trilogy being the best look we get at the UNSC Marine Corps from the ground. So let's talk about what equipment the UNSC Marines were using during the final days of the war. So let's start with their fatigues. Under their armor, they would often wear camouflage fatigues that would generally match the environment they were fighting in. There's not really much special about these fatigues, so I'm just gonna move right past them and talk about the boots. During the later days of the war, VZG-7 armored boots were standard issue across the UNSC Marine Corps. Marines from basically any role across the UNSC Marine Corps would be wearing some of these boots. Now, when it comes to protecting the rest of their body, they wore a variety of different types of armor. While the ones that we see in Halo 3 are M52Bs, we do see other variants used at other points during the later days of the war. For example, the Marines on the Pillar of Autumn seem to be wearing an entirely different armor set altogether. And last but not least, let's talk about their helmets. The CH-252 helmet was standard issue across the UNSC Marine Corps during the final days of the war. It's a very technologically advanced helmet, including a camcorder, which could record combat operations from the soldier's perspective, as well as, in some cases, a heads-up display mounted to an eyepiece. I should note that a lot of this equipment wasn't unique to the UNSC Marine Corps, and a lot of it would be used across other branches that operated ground forces and infantry. For example, regular members of the UNSC Army that we see defending Reach are using very similar equipment. But you obviously can't fight a war with just helmets and body armor, you have to bring weapons. So let's talk about the weapons used by the UNSC Marines. Well, the standard issue firearm for the UNSC Marine Corps was the MA5 assault rifle. They could often also be seen using BR-85 battle rifles. It's also notable that the M7 caseless submachine gun was a common sight, along with the M90 shotgun. UNSC Marine snipers would often use SRS-99s, which were the sort of standard issue sniper rifle within the UNSC, and the heavy weapon specialists would use things like M41 rocket launchers. So the UNSC Marine Corps' wide array of equipment made them pretty versatile, and they could fit basically any role needed by the UNSC. We see them mostly carrying out defensive operations and trying to hold the line against Covenant forces, since most of the war humanity was on the defensive. It's no wonder that with a force as versatile as the UNSC Marine Corps, they really were present in nearly every engagement of the war. If you want to learn more about the Human Covenant War, the war that I've sort of been referencing the entire video, I have a whole video on sort of the Cliff Notes version of that war, and I'll leave a link up here to that. And I want you to let me know down in the comments which you like more, the equipment utilized by UNSC Marines or the equipment utilized by the ODSTs. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.